Hello.
Hello.
Okay,
Do the
so
intro. Are you do the intro?
yeah, we need an intro though. I don't have like an intro
Oh
made.
man, my
Uh,
first instinct was
okay.
like the McDonald's jingle, and I'm like, that will definitely get us sued.
Um, I think yeah, no, nothing
Okay.
copyrighted, please. I don't want this taken down. I think it should be something like this is scary talk, scary talk. Ready to get scared, bitch?
Okay, a little bit Spider Pig.
No, I have
Yeah,
nothing.
I don't know about that, but it has potential.
Um, Hello, my name is Andre, and who's this?
Oh, are you talking to me? This is Shannon. I am an. Okay, we need to. You need to restart this. I'm stupid. How?
No, I
Okay,
don't. We're
what are
keeping
we
going.
supposed to say? Do we have qualifications?
I mean, um, you're a friend of mine, a great friend.
Okay.
That qualifies you for something
So we're
because
two
I only hang
friends who
out
are
with
really
people. So
interested in really scary things.
yeah. I mean, let's be serious. We're two people. Hello to the one person that's listening. We are two friends who are really into the esoteric and the obscure, and we always talk about it. And we decided, hey, why not make a podcast of it? Because everyone's doing it, we should do it. And so here we are. Today we are. My name is Andre, by the way, and my lovely co-host name is
Shannon?
Shannon. And today we are going to talk to you about exorcisms.
Yes,
we're,
demons.
we're going in deep from the get-go. We're not playing around. We're starting off with demons.
Yeah, like
Um,
sometimes you just gotta do it, summon Satan, get a little dirty.
exactly. So, okay. So, first off, Shannon, what's your stance on exorcisms?
On
Do you believe in
exorcisms.
them?
Okay, well, asking the serious questions. Exorcism, I was actually raised Catholic, Roman Catholic. I did all the classes, I did my little baptism, all that stuff, and I I don't know. I think that my firm answer is probably no. And the reason for that is that I don't want to believe that demons are real, just thinking aside from the rational thing. I think that if they were real, man, that would fucking suck. That would be awful. Are we allowed to cuss on here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be horrible. And so I am definitely more of the skeptic, I think, in this pair. However, with that being said, I am open. I'm always open to figuring out, like, maybe it is real. Maybe there is something to this. Or if there is something that can't be explained, then I don't think that should be ignored at all. So I think exorcisms is one of those things where it's like, for the most part, no, but I think that there are some situations that warrant more investigation.
Okay, so you're open-minded, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I totally understand that where you're coming from because we both researched this topic that I suggested, the exorcism of Annalise Michel, and I remember telling you earlier today, hey, the more I'm reading up on this, the more I think like maybe not,
Yeah.
like maybe we shouldn't cover the topic because I don't think that it's real. But then I read some more stuff, and I think that this is just a bad apple kind of case where this girl was not possessed. She had a mental illness, but the priest or the family did not see that and they just went this route and the girl ended up dead. But I do think that there are people who actually have been possessed.
Yeah. I
Um,
guess my question then would be like, if you do believe like there is such a thing as a real possession, what would that look like and how would that differ from Annalise?
well, some of the cases that I read, the people were reported to have levitated or to have spoken like perfect Latin. Um, I mean, levitation really is the main one. Of course, this isn't recorded, but the testimonies, like the testimonials of these cases who have allegedly been real, which have allegedly been real, in these cases, people have levitated,
Yeah.
and that's a biggie. I don't know about you, but if you're floating,
Yeah, if you're floating, it's like it's either
um,
demons or aliens. And I mean, honestly, I'm really open-minded where I would say maybe it was witchcraft. We don't know, it could have been anything. Could have been some
I mean,
shrooms.
yeah, but if it was witchcraft, wouldn't it still be Satan and whatnot? Since
I
witches,
mean, yeah, you're probably right. We could probably save that for a witchcraft episode though.
Okay, so I funny enough, I still want to talk about Annalise Michel because I think it's, I don't know, even though it's not well, I don't think it's a real case anymore. I did because all I knew about it was the sensationalized version that was, for example, in the
Right.
Exorcism of Emily Rose. The movie was an adaptation of this, basically. So that's what I knew about it. But now, actually reading like Wikipedia page, I'm like, never mind. But I still think it's interesting to talk about it. We should still look at it kind of to know what an exorcism is not, or like what a possession is not. And I have highlighted things that to me were very clear indicators that this was not that. And then if we don't see that in further cases, we know, oh, well, then maybe this one is a real possession, whereas the Annalise Michelle one is not. um so first thing, this girl, she was diagnosed with epileptic psychosis. So she was diagnosed with this when she was little. She experienced a seizure. Um, when was it? She was young. But the point is that she experienced seizures. She had convulsed, and so clearly there was already something going on, like a seizure and kind of a um a sign of possession are things that look very similar. Like if you've ever seen those exorcism scenes in movies where people are like tied to a bed and they move like frantically, um, I don't know, someone I guess could mistake a seizure for that,
Right.
especially if the person, if the girl also is saying, also by the way, I'm
Yeah.
possessed, which is what she was saying. Like obviously, I just think that this whole thing is Annalise Michelle. She led everyone to believe that, I mean, almost unwillingly led
Hmm.
everyone to believe that she was possessed, and it's
Yeah,
really,
I
really
think
sad.
that's the other thing that's kind of important about talking about Annalise in comparison to exorcism is that even though like she wasn't possessed by a demon, it goes a long way to show that if you were raised really, really religious, if you're surrounded in this household of super religious like parents and stuff, and you're experiencing things that you can't explain, like mental illness, and especially like I guess she had schizophrenic like symptoms, but not necessarily schizophrenia, at least not diagnosed of what I'm aware of. Like it makes sense that she would be like, well, obviously this is a demon. Like my parents told me this is real. Like I believe in hell, I believe in Satan, there's a demon inside me. And so
Mhm.
like if you get into that belief, you can get carried away. And I think that that could happen with, I don't know, a lot of exorcism cases, you know, not to say that they're all fake, but I think it could definitely make things worse and worsen the issue.
Yes, but the thing here is, which is really funny, is that Annalise, and I have it like circled in my article because I thought it left me shook. It said that at one point this, okay, so for those of you who don't know, in case you can't Google it, Annalise Michelle is this girl. She lived in the 70s. She is a big. She was part of a big exorcism case in the 70s. She is the inspiration for this 2005 or six movie called The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and she was also part of why exorcisms became so sensationalized at the time, like mid 70s, early to mid 70s, because a lot of these exorcism cases were getting a lot of attention, and she was one of those. She was huge because she got like, I don't know, 60 something exorcisms in the span of a couple of years, and she died. Um, and it was like a big deal. It was a big court case. It was a big negligence court case. So that's who this person is. That's who we're talking about. What I was gonna say was that something that I found really shocking was that at one point this girl actually requested her parents that they rely solely on the exorcism rites and that they stop the like medical interventions that she was having, because she was at one point, it's somewhere in here. At one point, she was still having psychiatric treatment, but she asked her parents to
Yeah.
stop it. So she did that. um, I mean, granted, like you said, she was probably really influenced by growing up in the kind of household that she did, a very religious household. She probably, I mean, the way I see it is this is a case of a girl who grew up super religious, like all these imagery and all this like religious knowledge is the only, like those were the only things that surrounded her. And when something bad happened in her life, like the start of a mental illness or like her seizures got really bad, she kind of put that on, oh my god, I'm possessed. And the fact that, I don't know, there wasn't a lot of people telling her that she was not, probably reinforced that belief in her. Plus the fact that at one point that started the church agreed to um, have priests perform exorcism rites on her. Like once that started, her belief probably wasn't squandered, but rather she was like that was reinforced in her head that she was possessed.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that the first time her family asked the priest, they declined. For some reason, I don't know why, but eventually they did get approval, and that's when the exorcism started. And when she ended up dying, it says that she had 67 exorcism sessions.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is
That's
great.
insane.
She. This is. I don't know. I'm just gonna say it because it's interesting to me, but it's super gruesome. She weighed 68 pounds when she died, and this was a woman in her
Yeah.
20s. Um, it was crazy, and it says here that she, when she died, she had broken knees due to continuous genuflections. So basically, she would fall to her knees a lot to like the praying position, like the kneeling position, during the rites, and she eventually like bust her kneecaps, which is kind of gruesome.
Oh
Um,
my god.
okay, here's what I think we should do. This is okay, and um so this is a horrible case, and basically to wrap it up, the girl died after 67 exorcism rites over like 1.5 or 2 years or something, and the parents and the priests who performed the rites were eventually taken to court like 2 years after her death, for negligence. They were found guilty and given like 3 years of prison or something, but it was turned into probation instead. And
I mean, we can just talk about, the different points that would. Because, I mean, one that I definitely was kind of freaked out by is that she would eat coal, eat insects, and drink her own urine. And I guess she, like, stripped down, like, naked and would, like, squat down and, like, pee in random places and, like, go completely insane. And I'm like, like, there's mental illness and there's just, like, oh my god, like, wow, antipsychotics, like, that's not normal behavior.
I mean, I don't know. It could just be very advanced mental illness. Like I read that and I was like, that could be a thing. Like someone could drink their own urine, like Bear Grylls does it.
That's a
Um,
good point.
um, but I don't know. Like I really wanted to, just for the sake of this, basically for the sake of the episode and whatnot, I really wanted to find an angle where I was like, maybe this could have been real. But the damning stuff that I read was so damning that I was like, man, this really does just sound like this girl had a mental illness. She didn't know how to treat it. She influenced her parents. The parents, let themselves be influenced. I'm sure they're not fully to blame, since like if this person's telling you constantly,
Mhm.
I'm possessed, you're eventually gonna believe it. And then the priests, obviously they believed it, and so a tragedy happened, and that's the end of it. Like I don't see much beyond that. um Now, okay, one thing though, the article that I read said that years later a fire broke out in the house where the girl used to live. Now it's kind of creepy, because people are like,
Okay.
oh, that was because of the exorcism rites. But it was in 2013. It was like way later. So that seems kind of disconnected.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's a little
Um,
flimsy.
so this podcast isn't very scary so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not scary. We need to
So,
up the scare factor somehow. You can add sound effects of like someone like
um, maybe we
you
should
know what I'm saying?
we should
Heavy
we should
breathing.
change the podcast title to Psych Talk, because
Yeah, no, this is definitely getting way more
yeah,
psychological.
two dumbasses who don't know anything about psychology pretending that they do and talking about scary stuff and
Right.
like.
If we talk slower and more quiet and like try to create tension, I'm sure people will be terrified.
Okay, so
Peanut butter.
um we should do ASMR. That's big right now. Big money.
Oh my god, you're right.
Okay, so I do have some cases here that are more terrifying because these are allegedly, well, I mean, not even allegedly, they just seem more real. But of course,
They're less
I mean, yeah.
investigated, you know.
Yeah. Oh, look at me, a skeptic. Never thought it of myself.
Oh, I know.
Um, okay, so first one is this girl who I did do a little bit of research on. Her name is Clara Germana Seal, and I think I sent you this.
Yes.
Um, she was the first one on this article. And long story short, this girl was a South African girl, and in the early 20th century, it was in 1906, she was said to be possessed by a demon, and one of the nuns that was, what is it, so she was put away in a convent, and one of the nuns that was there reported that, quote unquote, no animal had ever made such sounds, neither the lions of East Africa nor the angry bulls. At times it sounded like a veritable herd of wild beasts orchestrated by Satan had formed a hellish choir. So
Ooh.
very dramatic.
What kind of noises was she making?
I guess like animal noises. She was mooing
A wild
all around.
beast.
Um, okay, so this is the thing that caught my eye. This case, in this case, the girl, according to some, was allegedly levitating, 5 feet in the air, sometimes vertically, sometimes horizontally.
Okay, so 5 feet. That's like a
So
lot. That's the size of an average, you know,
that's yeah,
I don't know, teenage girl. So she's
that's
levitating pretty
yes,
high.
yeah. So that's hard to. I mean, they're either straight up lying or straight up not. Like it's hard to
Yeah.
misconstrue that as anything else. Like someone's 5 feet in the air,
Hmm.
they're not 2 inches in the air. Like you could like be like, oh, it's a trick of the eye or something. Um, yeah, and of course a lot of these, because especially if they're old exorcisms, there's no footage, so a lot of these just they're contingent. I mean, whether you believe on it or not is contingent upon whether you believe the testimonials of these people. But
Right.
um, you know me, I believe anything. I mean, not anything, rest in peace, Annalise. But um, I am making this fucking podcast for a reason, which is like I need to let out all these things that I believe and that they're so crazy, and see if there's any more crazy out there that I can connect with. So, I'm siding with this nun. I believe this nun saw this. I believe she was terrified, and so she wrote about it.
All right. We're
Um,
supporting the nun.
yeah, if you want to call me an exorcism shill, that's fine. Come for me.
I mean, I'm looking
Um,
at the Wikipedia page right now, and I mean, Clara definitely has a lot of the symptomatic, I guess would be the wrong word. She has the telltale signs of like a demonic possession, like clairvoyance, knowing things about people that she couldn't possibly know about, speaking languages that she couldn't have possibly
mhm.
learned somehow. Like you said, she was from Africa, so it says she was
Yes.
speaking Polish, German, French. I mean, I guess French would be possible, right? But
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know how she would hear Polish.
yeah, and also maybe she went to like a fancy school and learned a lot of languages, but it just seems unlikely. However, there is this article that I read about a priest. His name is Dr. Richard Gallagher. The movie The Rite with Anthony Hopkins is actually based on his work. He's like a very famous American exorcist. And the article, long story short, it said that he had once like met this woman who was apparently possessed, and she knew things about him that no one else knew, like very deep secrets, like the fact that his mother had died from ovarian cancer, and she spoke Latin. But what the article argued was, well, what if what this woman did, and ergo, what if what Clara, the little girl, did was a cold reading, which is what like TV psychics do, basically all psychics, because I don't believe in psychics.
Yeah.
um which is
Interesting. You don't believe in psychics.
no, I know it's kind of stupid. um but I don't know, in my head it makes sense. So long story short, the article argues that this priest, Dr. Richard Gallagher, when he met this woman who was possessed, and the way she was able to like know this, the fact that the doctor's mom died of ovarian cancer, was because she did a cold reading. Now I don't know where she learned to do her cold readings, but the cold readings that I see on TV are never this good. Like that would be a really good guess, because psychics will be like, oh, has there been a death in your family, and the person will be like, oh my god, do you mean my sister who died on a car accident? Yes. And that way, you make yourself believe that the psychic actually is psychic. But
Yeah.
but like it was the woman who guessed that the mom had died of ovarian cancer. Like that's
She
a
specifically said ovarian
yeah,
cancer.
yeah, like that's I mean, it doesn't say that she specifically said that, but I just doubt the doctor would have fallen for that,
Right.
told her himself that it was ovarian cancer, and then claim that the woman was able to do that. Like obviously he would have been able to realize, oh no, she knew that because I told her that. um and in the article he's like, nope, she knew that. So I'm guessing she did say those words specifically. um and that's freaky. Like, how did she know that? If that's a cold reading, then that's a really good guess, and it's just really unlikely. um and the fact that she was talking Latin, that was also spooky. Now, the thing about Latin and the foreign languages, well, specifically Latin, a lot of these exorcisms, the victims speak Latin at some point. This article, this Dr. Richard Gallagher article, it says that it could just be that the victims, well, one, that the victims want attention. So by getting an exorcism, somehow they're getting attention, and two, that while their rites are going on, they speak some Latin because they've
Right.
memorized some Latin
Priests
phrases
using
or
Latin
something,
on
but they
them.
don't really know it. Which I guess is possible, but that means that all of them are liars. That all the people who are getting exorcised are liars, and they're just doing it for attention. And to me, it's kind of a statistical thing. Like, if there's been so many exorcisms, what are the chances that all of them are lies? I don't know. I feel like even 1 out of 100 would be real, or 1 out of every 1,000 would be real, and that would mean that demons do exist, even if
I
it's very
mean,
rare. You know?
I'm the skeptic over here, so I'm gonna say, well, maybe
I
not
mean,
even one in a hundred, maybe none of them. Maybe it's, I think, like, if you are mentally ill and you're suffering from something, you would probably be very grateful to be like, it's not my fault I'm possessed by a demon, because that takes the responsibility off of you. You don't have to change as a person, it's out of your hands now, you know? And so even if, they could convince themselves it's true and then continue on to this charade, whether it is or isn't, especially if you're already having seizures and stuff, you probably, that's the psychological. But I mean, I see what you're saying.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but like I'll reiterate what I'm saying with another example. Like, it's the same with UFOs. The way that I see it is, the way that I see it is, oh well, even if just 1 out of every 100 cases is real, that still means it's real. But I can see how you can invert it and be like, well, actually not invert it, but I could see how someone could say, well, if it's possible that only 1 out of 100 is real, how impossible would it be that 1 out of every 100, or sorry, that all 100 are not real, or that all 1,000 are not real, that all of them are not real.
I mean, I totally believe in aliens. We're jumping on that train. We're going to outer space.
We're not moving there quite yet. But oh, that's next
Take me,
episode.
beam me
Okay.
up.
Um, but yeah, okay, I see that. Okay, now here's the thing. We have, and I'm not afraid to jump into this topic, into a different topic, because I still think it's somewhat related. And the overarching theme is like demons, and basically, do they exist? Like, exorcisms are like, possession is one way they manifest, but if that's not it, basically. So what I was gonna say is, you've talked to me before about witchcraft and how it scares you and you're spooked, and how it was like a big thing back then that you studied it some, and not witchcraft, but you studied about it, like about the fact that it
Yeah,
was a
try to
thing.
clarify
Shannon's not a witch,
that.
everyone. um but so do you think that, I mean, first, well, you said that you're not very religious, right? So do you think it's real? Like, do you think these women actually worship Satan? Do you think
Ooh,
Satan is
this is a long
real? I mean,
topic. Okay. Well, I guess the first thing I want to say is, we're going with full openness and we're going with full. We're just keeping our eyes peeled. We're not really thinking too much about what we believe. We're just talking. And so I think that for this podcast, I think we should talk about stuff through a religious scope, even though I'm not super religious, because I think that those values and the Bible actually inform a lot of this, especially demons and witchcraft a little bit. And so yeah, I think
mhm,
that we should think about all these things in many different points of views. And for witchcraft especially, I would say it's a slippery slope for me because I studied it for 10 weeks at my university, California Riverside, and that was interesting because I was expecting the class to be not what it was. And what it was historical and it was terrifying and it was really
mhm,
interesting. And I feel like it is kind of a hard topic to talk about because these witchcraft trials and like the murdering of all these women, they happened in the United States, they happened in Europe, they happened in all types of places. And I don't think that all those women were guilty. So, like, I don't. And there were men too, like, probably about 50% were men, witches accused. And so I don't think that they were all practicing witches. I think they were accused for other reasons. Maybe they were mentally ill, maybe they were old, and people didn't like them. And that's something that we learned too. And that's something to think about when we're talking about this. But what I found interesting is wow, I'm running out of breath. Wow. Okay. Really passionate about this. So what I found interesting about it is even though there were, like you're saying, there were maybe like 100 cases to look at, and I'm specifically talking about Eastern Europe when I'm talking about witchcraft.
mhm.
Maybe 100 of them were not real. They were just women who the neighbors didn't like them. Maybe they didn't water their grass or something, like the modern equivalent of like having something really obnoxious at the end of the cul-de-sac. All your neighbors hate you, so they accuse you of witchcraft. But there
Mhm.
would be some where it's like they would confess to the crime, right? They would admit to be witches, and that wasn't uncommon during that time either, because
Yeah.
if everyone thinks you're a witch and you have to confess in order to end the torture, you're going to confess anyway. But what I found interesting was that the women who confessed like super quickly were also the women who had admitted to having pacts with Satan. Um,
Hmm.
Maybe you could talk for a minute because I need to recharge.
I mean, well, no, actually, I want to like, what do you think that means? Like, what are you trying to say?
Well, I'm saying, okay, so let's say 1 in 100, she said, okay, I confess I was a witch. I sold my soul to Satan. So that's the one woman who actually says, like, and she doesn't feel remorse about it, There would be that one
Okay.
woman.
Yeah.
And these were the cases where oftentimes it would be unexplainable. Um, and this is all taking place in like the 1600s, 1700s, some even earlier than that. And so the records are in Old English, they're done by like random city criers. And so we don't have a lot of records on
Mhm.
it, but what we do have is the obituaries and we have the convictions of the women. And the ones that were unsolved would be weird things like I wish I'd brought my witchcraft book. Like, let's say this woman, this is just an example, this isn't one that actually happened, it's best of my memory, but this woman is accused of killing this man, her neighbor, and they can't figure out how she did it,
Mhm.
but they're sure that she did. Uh, and so when they arrest her, she's in interrogations, and she says, well, I made a deal with the devil, and oftentimes it would be in like a spirit form of an animal. So like demons in these times with witchcraft, they were accused of taking the form of familiars, which would be just strange creatures, dogs, cats, rats, even. They're always drawn to be really strange and weird looking, so they're not normal, or they'd be like black. And the animal would claim to be, either a
Mhm.
demon or would claim to be Satan. It would say, I can help you with whatever problem in your life. I can give you this or that, but I want your soul or whatever. And so if the witch agreed to, become a witch and then he would take care of her problems, then the familiar would suckle. Suckle is the appropriate term. It would bite into her skin and feed off of her for probably, days, whatever. And so that was one of the ways they would try and find out if a woman was a witch, was looking on her body for peculiar markings. And so
I
that was
mean,
like the devil's pact with the
so
devil,
do you
like
think
once that had
that
happened,
these
she
things
was
actually
theirs
happened?
and he would do whatever. I don't know. I think that when we talk about unexplained stuff, like, I think what creeped me out about it is that they truly believed that it did, or at least they were saying these things to scare the people who were interrogating them, which I guess if you're about to be hung anyway, that makes sense. Like, you would just be like, well, may as well have one last laugh and say that this is why I did it, and it's scary, to think like this strange demon creature offers you
Yeah.
stuff in exchange for your soul, like that's scary, and then they can't prove how
Yeah,
this
that
person
is true.
died. And oftentimes they could, which is why when they couldn't, it was like extra weird, because there was one case where they easily proved, like, oh, this person was poisoned, like this plant, like that's a regular murder. There's no witchcraft involved, there's no Satan involved in that, but those weren't in those weren't in like concert with deals with Satan. So it's like it either wasn't a deal with Satan and they knew how the person did it exactly, like, oh, they fucking hit them over the head with a rock, or it was with Satan and they couldn't prove it, which is, I mean, I'm not saying it's real, I'm just saying, like, I think that I'm more bound to believe that there's a possibility when it is in this old time where we can't prove it, because the records don't show it, and because I do think that if there were demons or something, then they wouldn't exist in our time as we know it, because that'd be really hard. Like, we have recording devices, we have all this stuff that makes it way more difficult,
Way more difficult for what the demons to hide.
for the demons to hide, for the demons to like do anything. Like, I just feel like it'd be hard being a demon in this day
But
and
I don't
age.
know that the demons are trying to hide. I mean, think of exorcisms. Clearly, they're showing themselves and they don't care. And if you do
Yeah,
believe,
but do we have like, because like you said, we don't have any recordings of people levitating, so obviously they aren't showing it for that.
I mean, yeah, but we do have the testimonials of people who seem trustworthy, and also we do have voice recordings from people who are or have been allegedly possessed, and some of those voices are really peculiar. But yeah, I mean the proof. I mean, but then think about this: like the proof for anything paranormal usually is very bad, and that's why it's paranormal. I think that's why it never because paranormal is basically synonym with like crazy or conspiracy theory, and the reason why those things stay that way are because the proof is never very tangible. But sometimes I feel like that's not really anyone's fault. Like the fact that these things don't exist in the normal realm of things means that they're really hard to capture.
Right.
So no wonder our evidence is so bad. um so I don't know, I mean, like I wouldn't discredit it just because the evidence is there. But then again, like obviously I wouldn't discredit it because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about scary stuff, and if we're talking about it, it's because to some extent we believe in it. We believe in it in regardless of the lack of quote unquote good evidence. So I mean,
Yeah.
like look at us is what I'm saying basically.
Yeah, and I do think like another thing is, just because we haven't proved it doesn't mean we won't. And I think maybe that's just one of those things where it's like all science, we didn't know of until we did, So maybe there is a way to see these things, or to at least measure these things, and we just haven't
Exactly. Yeah,
found it
that's
yet.
what I think. I mean, I think that things like EMF, no, that's electromagnetic frequency. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, what are those things called? Those things that catch is it EVF? Things that catch like ghosts talking. Um there's an acronym
Oh,
for
I
that.
don't
But those
know.
kinds of devices, I think there's like specifically made to capture some kind of frequency that like you wouldn't be able to hear otherwise. So I think that's I mean, if they do work and they are real, then that technology is in the right direction, is what I'm trying to say. Or what is there like a type of ghost camera? Yeah, I don't think that's a thing. Never mind. Well, the recording devices, the voice recording devices are good. Interesting. Okay, so your stance on witch is kind of like your stance on this whole thing, which is which is understandable. I mean, partly I think it's
Right.
understandable because I don't know that you'd want to spook yourself too much by believing this 100%, because then that means that you have to grapple with the idea that, oh man, like, what if there's a demon here, or what if I ever get possessed, or oh my god, am I doing something wrong, like, is there going to be one around the corner, which could
Mhm.
possibly be why we don't give ourselves completely to this idea. It could just be out of fear. I mean, I don't think it is, but I think that it's because you are more of a skeptic, and you have good reason to be. You have, like, a lot of logic on your side, but you never know. It could just be that, like, deep down your subconscious is like, no, I can't believe in witches, because if I do, I'm gonna have to accept the fact that, like, I could get possessed, or a goat could talk to me one day. um, um, which I think is the case with a lot of these things. Like, I remember, I'm not trying to jump into another topic, just a quick tangent, but I remember, when I first got into the esoteric when I was fairly young. I'm 21 now. I was probably, I don't know, 12, 11. Like, really, my whole life I've been into this kind of stuff. Maybe even younger than that. I remember thinking, like, oh my god, aliens are real, and I still think that, obviously, but obviously, um, I remember
Yeah.
thinking, like, oh, they're real. But then, as soon as I said that, I was like, oh my god, well, then if they're real, like, fuck, are they watching me? Are they, like, gonna be outside my window if I open it? Like, it was scary, and since that never
Yeah.
happened, now I'm like, no, it's fine, and you can keep believing in it, and, like, it's fine, because I think it's fine, because nothing has happened, and I doubt anything's gonna happen. But that doesn't mean that, like,
Mhm.
all the fear goes away. Because even though nothing has happened, and I doubt anything will happen because nothing has, the fact that I do believe in aliens, for example, means that I do believe that the people who get abducted, they actually do get abducted. And that means that I could get abducted. I'm just like everyone else. And that's a scary thought. Um, so, I don't know. End of tangent. Anyway, back to witches. Did you ever see The Witch? It was
I
good.
did. I love
When the
that
goat
movie.
talks.
It's really good. Really accurate too. Yeah,
Yeah,
Black Phillip
I
the
freaked
goat.
out. um, that was good. Okay, what do you say it's accurate?
Well, I mean, what's not accurate is that for some reason this took place in the US in the movie, which wouldn't really be accurate, but it's accurate because the way Thomason, yeah, the main character is accused, is very much how a lot of them were accused, where she made a joke about being a witch, and then everyone took her super seriously,
Mhm.
and they just were like, "Well, shit, you must be the witch then," and they just wouldn't believe her, and so what ended up happening was she became a witch, and that's like, if you're gonna say I am, well, maybe I am, that sort of thing. That happened constantly during that time, and the other thing is, a lot of the things that occurred in that film, like with her brother being possessed, I guess, with like illness, like that was one of the ways the demons would kill for witches, is by infecting someone with illness that wasn't explainable, which kind of comes off as possession, convulsions and speaking weird.
Wait, are you saying that if a demon wanted to, like, get a witch, that they would possess one of their family members?
Not necessarily get a witch, but like a witch could ask a demon to possess
Oh, so
someone,
this would like lend credence to the idea in the movie that she actually was the witch.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, I don't think she was until the end, but
I mean,
yeah, like
but I'm
in
saying, like,
general, like
the
the
parents clearly, like, must have thought that, and they did
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I mean, the witch and the demon are technically partners. I mean, as much as you can be partners with something that's infinitely more powerful than you, you don't actually have a say, but
Right.
you think you do. And so, the demon would kill for them and all this other stuff, and it is mostly just for that extra soul in hell and to cause mayhem, and but yeah, that's one of
Interesting.
the ways it was accurate. The stealing and killing of babies, that's like common folklore with witches. And
Spooky. Do you think that okay, I mean, you said I don't know about witches, basically. Like, long story short, man, like, I don't know, but it could be. Okay, well, what about self-proclaimed witches today? Because witchcraft today is very different. One, it's acceptable among like the I use crystals for healing community, basically. Don't come for me, crystal community. um,
Are you talking? I am a proud member of the crystal community. Do not come for us. I have plenty of crystals.
um,
Are you talking about Wiccans
yeah, I'm
or
talking about Wiccans, but
witchcraft?
wait, do you actually like use crystals for healing?
Sometimes I meditate with them because genuinely, like, it's really difficult to meditate, so you need something to focus on.
Okay,
And like, honestly, you could be holding a sock, and like, you could be focusing on the sock. But
okay.
just because a gem is like so pretty, it's like may as well.
Well, I
Like,
feel like that's a little different because I like the sight of a crystal and like the idea of it is cute. And I think that what you're doing with it is like close to that. But I'm talking about the kind of people who are like, okay, lay down. Now I'm going to place crystals on your body or like hover them above you, and you're gonna be like healed of your ailment.
okay,
I think that's kind of like too much.
I've done that to Riley
Um,
one time, but that was not actually about healing. It was just because we wanted to see what would happen.
that's kind of scary, but if something like did happen.
I mean, it would have been
Um,
something good. We weren't casting a spell.
okay, so I mean, great segue. Like that's the kind of people that I'm talking about. And yeah, it's I am ignorant about a lot of this stuff, but I feel like I get the general idea from like the zeitgeist of American culture of what a modern like witch does or practices or whatever. And like yeah, a Wiccan would be a good example
Well,
of
I,
that.
I think
You were
with
gonna say
Wiccans
something, I
it's a
think.
little bit different because I think technically they're closer to a religion. And so I've known Wiccans before and I don't think that they should be classified as witches, but when we talk about like, oh, like this crystal can heal you and stuff like that, like I've definitely seen like modern spells online, right? Like, like this will bring you good luck or whatever, use this crystal and use this herb and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, that's definitely witchcraft. And I guess I kind of have the same feeling about
Hmm.
that as I do with any type of, and please forgive me for saying this, but trend, where it's like, like if that makes you feel like you are going to have good luck, if eating like a gluten-free biscuit is going to make you feel like you're healthier, like I'm not going to tell you it's not, like it's closer to a placebo in my opinion, but that doesn't mean that the things we think don't manifest. Like I think that they do. It's just it's not magic.
I mean,
I think it's more like
I,
the attitude that you put out into the world is gonna come
hmm.
back at you in the same way,
I
Like if you pull up into the Taco Bell drive-through with a snooty ass face and they don't tell you to have a nice night, it's because they probably know
Okay,
you
so
already
you
aren't.
don't
Like
believe that these like self-proclaimed witches who have like jet black hair and like a bedroom full of candles and they film themselves on YouTube doing like a love spell are real? Because I don't. So
I don't think they're real. I think that they're just living their truth, They're doing the best they can.
okay, wait a second now. Now here's the thing. Um, those are one kind, but I remember watching a video not so long ago about this. It was this Mexican dude who found oh my god, what was it? I'm probably gonna like butcher this story, but it was this Mexican man who like someone had laid a spell on him, and the way he found out was like, I think he he his mom's grave had been like vandalized, and he went like he I guess he was like notified of this, so he went to check it out. And don't quote me on this whole story, but I do remember vaguely like basically he went to check it out and there was like some kind of doll or some kind of like hair and shit and stuff in there, like a wrapping, some kind of wrapping, like some witch wrapping. It was like made of hair and like a voodoo doll and some other shit. And he was like, what the fuck is this? And then like there was a note in the back of it that said that he was cursed with something. But then like the story got more gruesome because he like unrolled the wrapping and there was more stuff inside it. I think like teeth or
Ugh.
like flesh. That was like gnarly shit. And I'm like, okay, so like Candle Girl on YouTube, like I'm good girl, but this shit, like maybe this is
Right,
real.
like black
like
magic.
um yeah, like I'm
I
talking like
guess, I mean, I've
darker.
heard this from other
Yes.
people is like, what is your intention when you're casting a spell? Because that could mean everything. Like, if your intention is to do harm, I feel like that might be more powerful than just like
Hmm.
I really think like Ben is like super hot. He sits behind me. Maybe this rose petal will like make him fall in love with me. Hey, what's up? You know, like I don't know. Like
I think this was a bad spell for sure. I just don't remember what it was about, but it was
right.
something about like
Yeah, I
condemning him to
mean, I think
something.
intentions, you know, like and especially if you're like messing with flesh and like I don't know, hex bags, like that's pretty intense. I'm not gonna say it's real, but that's you know, you're trying to make it real. Like you have every intention to curse that person.
Well, I mean, but but Shannon, like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean to you? Because you're saying like, intention is everything, but in the end, like, if we're just being technical, like, intention is just intention. That's that, and it doesn't materialize. I know, like, about the law of attraction and whatever you put out into the world is what come back to you, but
Right.
that is not really a quantifiable thing. It's not really measurable. It's hard to like observe.
Yeah.
I mean, not that anything paranormal we're gonna talk about is gonna be very quantifiable or observable.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
think well, okay, here's what I think. If this guy
uh-huh.
found this thing, right? This nasty hex bag, you know, and he felt like really like someone had cursed him, I think he would look for things in his life and be like, that must be the curse. Or like if something bad happened, he'd be like, oh my god, it's this hex bag, you know?
Okay.
Like that's kind of what I'm trying to say in terms of
Okay, so you
that.
really think it's a placebo thing. Um
I don't know. I guess do you have an ending to that story? Did anything happen?
no, the guy just recorded. Is like he uploaded the videos to Facebook. He was like unwrapping the thing and freaking out, and he was like, yeah, he uploaded it to Facebook for people to see. Now, here's what I think though. Okay, so I was asking your opinion because I wanted you to go first and I wanted to hear it. So, um, like those girls that I talked to you about are those like YouTube witches. Like that's one thing, and I think it's cute, whatever. But the kind of thing that this man encountered, I don't know. I think that stuff is real. Like I think there was either blood or hair or flesh, something. There was definitely teeth, but there was something else that was also like human, and that was like super fucked up. And it was rolling this like some kind of like fabric wrapping, and there was also like a voodoo doll in there somewhere with like needles on it, of course. Um, I think that at least some part of it is real. Like if it's not like some kind of weird incantation where you need flesh, then at least the voodoo part was real.
Hmm.
Something about that wrapping like must have been real. I mean, not must have been, but it just to me, I
Okay.
believe it. That's some dark fucking shit. Like when you mess with I don't know, like human flesh or human remnants, like bloody hair or whatever. For like first, like where did that person who made that wrapping like take that from? That's spooky to think about, and like what does it mean? But two, even if we don't know that, like the fact that you are you were talking about intent. The fact that you are placing this like heavy intent and like really believing, like the fact that you're placing this heavy intent on this wrapping, this like demonic fucking thing that you're making, and then you're putting like human shit into it. I feel like that does something. Like that crosses a boundary, that steps over a line. I don't know how to explain it, but I
So for you, like your measure of belief is if it contains that level of horror where
yes,
it's just wrong,
yeah.
basically.
Just
Okay.
because again, we don't know where she got it from. Maybe it was just like an Indian wig, but um assuming that it's not and it was someone's something, like it was someone's teeth, it was someone's hair, it was someone's skin. That that is a different level of horror. Like someone, I mean, I'm just gonna super speculate here, but someone killed someone and like skinned them or took their teeth out or some twisted shit, and then put that in there and then like wrapped it and then said their fucking spell and like fucking like dipped it in vinegar or blood or some weird shit and like drew a circle of salt around it. Like, that's like a lot. And I feel like if there are any dark forces in the underworld, one, if there is an underworld, and two, if there are dark forces within it, I feel like that is the kind of level of thing that you have to do in order to make them rise and like come to you, like place their blessing on this wrapping, this incantation, and like make it actually a tangible evil dangerous thing to give to someone. um I don't know, man. Like I feel like if there is such a thing as like all these demons and all this shit and they can be invoked, that is the kind of thing that you do and it works.
I guess my only question is there are so many different ways, that you can curse someone or cast a spell, and there's so many different cultures that have like some interpretation of spells, like voodoo, hoodoo. I don't know. Like, I guess, is there a right one? Is there one that works, or how are we to decide which one is actually going to work if it is real?
I mean, like if I had to guess, I'd say like if it involves some kind of human part of something, like, um, but but honestly, it could just be. Remember when I remember we touched on this topic a while ago. It was when we were talking about exorcisms. You and I just like in a personal space, and I remember saying like, could it be that like demons in the Christian scope aren't like demons everywhere? Like the demons, could it be that like they're just evil entities in the universe, and that each religion or each like different parts of the world just see it differently, but in the end it invokes the same evil spirit. And I think that um idea has like um the fact that exorcisms, for example, happen all over the world, and the fact that all over the world people have claimed to have seen demons and stuff like that. I think that lends credence to the idea that even though these entities, these evil things like from the underworld or whatever, might have different names um, in different places, that they're all still the same thing. So let me tie that into what you asked me. I think that these incantations, like, you can make them like 100 different ways, because there are different ways depending on where you live in the world. But in the end, like, as long as they contain something pretty gory or terrible or whatever, like something that steps over a line, they're all going to work. In the end, they're all going to have the same result. They're all going to invoke the same kind of evil entity to do like a deed for you.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember talking about that, and I do think that's a really good point. Um, Especially because, like, every culture, I know you said, has, evil, good and evil, and so maybe they are just using the same name or a different name for the same things.
Right.
Um, I found it interesting. I think it was Annalise when we were doing our research that sometime after the trial, they were talking about how she believed, or they believed, that she was possessed by several different demons, and many of them were from the Christian Bible, and then one of them was Hitler. And so, yeah, it was
Yeah,
like,
I thought that was fun.
and they were talking like, I don't know, like, I guess Hitler could possess you, and so that kind of like ties back into like evil can take many forms. Like maybe when we die, like if we were evil enough, we could be a demon, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, could it, yeah, I mean, could it, yeah, honestly, honestly. Um, but yeah, that was interesting. Um, okay, well,
We've covered a
I
lot of
think
shit.
that we've covered some shit. um,
um,
any closing thoughts? Any closing thoughts on? So I want to make it specific. Any closing thoughts
I think it's really gross that she drank
on?
her own pee.
I was gonna say on the existence of demons, because you've been ambiguous about incantations and like like witch spells, and also I don't want to say ambiguous, but also like open, quote unquote open. So open to witches, open to the spells, um, kind of open to exorcisms. So does that mean that you're just open to the idea that demons are real, or do you?
Oh, I'm just waiting for someone to prove it, Like I'm fine with if it is, just show me, Like let's go on that ride together.
I guess I asked that because it could be that demons are real and they just don't possess people. So we're looking in the wrong places to prove their existence. Um, it could just be that. It could be that people who like claim to be possessed are all just mentally ill or crazy or faking it or whatever. And that the demons do exist, but they actually manifest in different ways. Like, I don't know, like when, what is it, like a statue of the Virgin Mary cries or something. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so I think, boy, I think they're real. Like and that's scary to say because it's like, well, what are the implications of that for my personal life? But I think that like the Annalise Michelle case that we looked at first was eye-opening and sad. But I think that the other ones, because there were other ones and a lot of them we didn't discuss, but basically all of them had something about them that made them believable the way that the Annalise Michelle case didn't have that. um I looked at some before we started recording. I think that those are harder to say, oh, this person was just, mentally ill or whatever. And so I think that some of those are real. Ergo, like demons must be real, or at least something. If you don't want to call it demon,
Yeah.
like some kind of evil entity, just evil itself. You know what I mean? Like whatever that thing is, like that thing ought to be real because I think some of these cases are legit, and I think they're legit because even though there's no like video of it, there are some audio recordings, there's a lot of testimonials, and I just don't think everyone is crazy or lying. These people who like give these testimonials, I just find that hard to believe. I don't know, I guess I believe in the good of people. um so that's what I think.
So much faith in humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can see why. I can see why you believe. I just keep coming back to this point of logic where it's like, well, if they're real, why do they do what they do? How are they choosing these people? Why haven't they come for my ass yet? And how many are there? Like I need to feel like they're actually tangible in my mind in order to believe in it, if that makes sense.
That's fair. This should be called the like skeptic believer podcast.
How
um
about the X-Files? Oh wait.
that domain is
Oh,
taken.
okay.
Shannon, thank you so much
Thank you, Andre.
for joining me today. Um, I'm gonna edit the shit out of. No, I'm kidding. um, okay, well, I am Andre, and this is.
Oh, I thought we were gonna say the title. Sorry. Try that again.
I'm leaving this in. My name, my name is Andre, and my lovely co-host is
Shannon.
Yes, that's correct. And this is Scary Talk, name under review, of course.
Yeah.
So,
Give us suggestions. One person listening.
lonely kid in Minnesota who's like eating ramen while listening to these two strangers talk. Please give us a suggestion. Okay, well, listen, y'all. I guess there's gonna be another episode soon, probably next week, because we're trying to make this consistent. But
Stay
if not,
safe. Do not let the
stay
demons
safe.
in.
See you when I see
Don't
you.
light black candles.
Yeah, lock your doors, lock your windows, and until next time.